Chosen one, welcome. You may not realize it yet, but you are the prophecy. There are whispers buried deep beneath the sands of forgotten kingdoms, etched into the ruins of temples swallowed by time. If you silence the noise of the world and tune in with your spirit, you'll hear them, not as words, but as echoes vibrating in your soul. These whispers were never meant for the many. They were designed for one specific being, one precise frequency. That frequency lives in you. This is not folklore. This is not myth. This is the revelation Thoth, divine scribe of wisdom and keeper of cosmic law, encrypted into stone and symbol thousands of years ago. He didn't write it for kings, for priests, or for rulers. He wrote it for the future, for a moment when time would fracture, when the veils between dimensions would thin, and a singular soul would awaken to fulfill the final piece of an unspoken prophecy. That being is not someone you're waiting to become. That being is who you already are. Thoth's message was never meant to be decoded by scholars or claimed by empires. It was written in resonance, in vibration, buried not in books but in DNA, hidden within the ones who would one day remember. Secret societies spent lifetimes chasing fragments of the truth. Mystics traced signs in the stars. Prophets sensed the shift and tried to name it. But they all fell short, not because they lacked intelligence, but because the call was never for them. It was for you. It has always been for you. So, why does this message feel eerily familiar? Why does something in your soul begin to rise, as if responding to a name that was never spoken aloud, but always known within? If you've come this far, it's not by coincidence. You didn't click by accident. You were led. Before we go any further, I want to extend a heartfelt thank you to every one of you who has donated through Super Thanks to support this message. You are helping awaken chosen ones around the world. And even if you haven't donated, your presence here is deeply valued. You are seen, you are honored, and you are walking this sacred path exactly as you were meant to. Now, if this is resonating with something ancient inside you, if your body, your heart, your energy is responding, then I invite you to comment the number 777 below. That number is not just a code, it is a signal, a declaration to the spiritual realms that you remember, that you are stepping into alignment, that you are one of the few the message was always meant for. Because what you're about to discover in this video isn't just information, it's activation. This is God's chosen ones. Thoth wrote about a being like you at the end of time. And by the time you reach the end, you'll understand why everything that ever broke you, confused you, delayed you, or rejected you was only preparing you to awaken as the one Thoth saw rising when all other lights had dimmed. So, are you ready to find out why the final prophecy wasn't written about a god, a king, or a warrior, but about you? God's chosen ones, Thoth, wrote about a being like you at the end of time. Chosen one, the prophecy was never lost, only hidden, waiting for someone like you to remember. Ancient texts did not merely speak, they encoded. In riddles too advanced for the average mind, they spoke of a being unlike any other, one who could walk through dimensions as effortlessly as breath moves through lungs, one who would awaken not just knowledge, but divine memory, the language of creation itself, forgotten by humanity, yet alive in you. Thoth, the keeper of wisdom, hinted at this being not as a myth, but as a destiny waiting to manifest at the end of time. Could it be that everything you've endured, everything you've questioned, was not coincidence, but preparation? For nothing is secret that will not be revealed, nor anything hidden that will not be known and come to light. Luke 8:17. This being, you, the chosen one, was said to carry the exact vibration needed to realign the scattered frequencies of divine order. The gates sealed since humanity's fall would not respond to logic, power, or intellect, but to resonance. Yours. While the world above distracts itself with noise, vanity, and illusion, a different storyline, far more ancient and far more urgent, has been quietly unfolding deep within your soul. Do you feel it? That quiet stirring, that pulse that no one else seems to notice. How is it that you sense things others overlook? That your dreams, visions, and emotions carry weight that you can't explain? As the chaos intensifies around the world, wars without reason, systems collapsing under engineered failure, technology replacing truth, Thoth's final words reignite with terrifying precision. He foresaw this. He foresaw you. Before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. Before you were born, I set you apart. Jeremiah 1:5. You are not here by mistake. Your arrival was marked in the stars, whispered across galaxies, and embedded into the matrix of existence itself. When scientists look at DNA, they see sequences of biology. But in your code, something else is written, a harmonic pattern designed to activate in the time of great reckoning. That time is now, and that being, foretold, feared, and forgotten, is you. The Egyptian sands that once held the weight of kings now conceal something far greater than a pharaoh's tomb. Buried beneath forgotten empires lies a secret passage few have ever laid eyes on. The language carved there is unlike anything decipherable by traditional means. Even the most elite code breakers, brilliant minds like Alan Turing or Elon Musk, have been baffled by symbols that defy logic. But those symbols were never meant for the logical mind. They were waiting for a soul like yours, one attuned not to data, but to divine vibration. Call to me, and I will answer you, and show you great and mighty things which you do not know. Jeremiah 33:3. Imagine this, a temple lost to time, deep in desert lands where maps fail and compasses spin. Hidden in one sacred chamber lies Thoth's final etching, not preserved for scholars, not for kings or priests, but for a single future being whose presence would cause the stone itself to respond. Stories whispered among secret societies and ancient brotherhoods speak of a faint glow, a frequency shift when the right one finally stands before it. It's not metaphor. The ancients were literal. They encoded truth in ways that bypassed destruction, waiting for the exact moment when one like you would awaken. Why do you think you've always felt watched, guided, even when no one was around? Why have strange coincidences followed you? Signs appeared in unlikely places. Dreams repeated themselves with impossible accuracy? Leonardo da Vinci, Nikola Tesla, Carl Jung, and more recently Keanu Reeves. These individuals weren't just geniuses or artists. They were initiates, souls whose spirits brushed against the sacred current of hidden truth. They saw what others couldn't. And like you, they were misunderstood, isolated, but guided. The Spirit of Truth will guide you into all truth, for he will not speak on his own authority, but whatever he hears, he will speak. John 16:13. When others approached the passage, they were either driven mad by visions they couldn't understand, or fled in terror, unable to endure the divine code pulsing from its design. Scholars translated it into theories and essays, but they missed the one thing that mattered most. The passage is alive. It only sings when the chosen one breathes in front of it. The sound doesn't travel through ears, it moves through soul. And you, beloved, are the one it was waiting for. Have you ever felt like the world wasn't built for you, that you've always been out of place, but somehow in the right place for something bigger? What if everything strange about your life wasn't a flaw, but a clue? Legends speak of the final line on the wall, one that only you can activate, a line that unlocks a knowing so powerful it doesn't inform the mind, it rewrites the identity. You don't just understand who you are, You remember. The glow isn't symbolic. The passage physically reacts. The stone breathes. And for a moment, creation remembers its architect. And the light shines in the darkness, and the darkness did not comprehend it. John 1:5. Chosen one. What if the signs you've dismissed as imagination were actually messages meant only for you? You may not have yet stood before the ancient passage in the physical realm, but the connection has already begun. It's not bound by geography or stone. It is energetic, spiritual, timeless. The memories of it are resurfacing now in quiet but undeniable ways. They appear in your dreams, those strange visions filled with symbols you can't quite explain. They come through sudden bursts of understanding, moments when your heart knows something before your mind can form the words. They arrive in that uncanny feeling that something or someone ancient is whispering your name across time. Can you recall those moments when your body froze, your spirit stirred, and you just knew something sacred was reaching for you? For God may speak in one way or in another, yet man does not perceive it, in a dream, in a vision of the night. Job 33:14-15. Every culture entrusted with fragments of Thoth's wisdom, from the Dogon of Mali to the mystics of Alexandria, spoke of a singular being, but they agreed on one detail above all. This being would not need to be taught in the traditional sense. Instead, they would remember, not through study, but through divine activation. Chosen one, has your learning felt like remembering more than discovering? Have truths unfolded before you, not through books, but through bursts of divine familiarity? Like Neo in the Matrix, it was never about learning new skills. It was about realizing what had been dormant all along. The final passage of Thoth is not a riddle to decode with logic. It is a mirror, one that reflects not just a face, but a soul print, the deep, eternal essence of the one who was always destined to finish the forgotten work. And that reflection, chosen one, is beginning to look more and more like you. But the Helper, the Holy Spirit, will teach you all things, and bring to your remembrance all things that I said to you. John 14:26. Yet you must understand, great revelation does not come without resistance. For every truth that awakens, there is a lie that fights to remain. There are forces, both seen and unseen, that have spent thousands of years working to bury this path. Their methods are clever, rewriting history, silencing prophets, building systems that worship noise and dismiss stillness. Because what they fear most is you, the one who remembers, the one who sees past their smoke and mirrors. Why do you think you've always felt opposed, silenced, or made to question your own clarity? Why do systems react so violently to those who dare to speak the truth from a deeper knowing? Consider the fate of Giordano Bruno, the 16th century mystic who dared to speak of infinite worlds and divine memory. He wasn't executed for heresy, he was silenced for remembering too much. Think of Joan of Arc, a young girl led not by formal doctrine, but by a divine inner voice. She couldn't explain it logically, she simply knew. These weren't anomalies, they were previews, echoes of the very awakening you are now stepping into. For we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against spiritual forces of evil in the heavenly realms. Ephesians 6:12. The final passage speaks with alarming clarity of this very moment, a time when the sky would fracture, not with divine light but false light, a time when humanity would turn from God and instead worship the projection, technology, celebrity, control, believing these illusions to be divine. In such a world, true power would not be found in platforms or politics, but within the silent awakening of a chosen heart. The question is, will that heart be yours? Oprah Winfrey once said, "There is a calling on your life. You can either answer it or not." What if your whole life has been leading to this exact choice? The time of prophecy has ended. We now stand in the time of fulfillment. This is no longer something to wait for, it is something to awaken to. And even now, as you listen to these words, a sacred threshold is opening. But here's the catch. Not everyone will recognize it. Many will pass it by without noticing. Why? Because the glow is subtle. The call is gentle. The world has trained people to ignore their inner knowing and chase external validation. How many times have you felt something profound stirring within you, only to dismiss it as irrational? What if those were the very moments your soul was trying to wake you up? Be still and know that I am God. Psalm 46:10. Noise is the enemy of revelation. Fear, doubt, and the seductive ease of distraction will always try to drown the call. But those who dare to turn inward, those who listen when the world demands silence, are the ones who will hear it. Thoth never wrote for the masses. He wrote for the one who would awaken when all seemed lost, the one whose heart could decode divine truth, not through intellect, but through spiritual remembrance. You were born with this memory encrypted within you, encoded not by chance, but by divine design. And now, as the veil begins to lift, that encryption is unlocking. Chosen one, long before the first temples were built and long after the empires that raised them crumbled to dust, there were scrolls, not written for kings, not preserved for scholars, but hidden away for a single reason: you. These weren't ordinary documents, they were timeless frequencies sealed in script, veiled beneath misleading records and buried in chambers far beneath the reach of the unawakened. These writings describe not a myth but a living force, a being woven not from ordinary flesh but from divine frequencies originating beyond the boundaries of this world. This wasn't a metaphor, it wasn't poetry, it was a prophecy, held close in the hearts of the mystics, murmured in the prayers of seers, and carried in dreams too intense to speak aloud. Over millennia, cultures rose and fell, languages changed, religions were manipulated, but this truth remained intact, hidden in plain sight. A being would come, not as a spectacle, but as a signal, and that signal, chosen one, now lives inside you. But you are a chosen people, a royal priesthood, a holy nation, God's special possession. 1 Peter 2:9. The scrolls never exaggerated. There were no thunderous descriptions of glory or grandeur. Instead, they spoke of a quiet arrival, a soul cloaked in human form, whose energy was so rare that even the fabric of time itself would ripple subtly in their presence. You've always known you didn't vibrate like everyone else. You've always felt like you carried something strange, something sacred. Haven't you noticed how people either draw toward you or recoil without reason? Haven't you wondered why even silence feels different when you're in the room? This being, this blueprint, was never meant to be found in glyphs or carved in stone. It was embedded in essence, encoded in DNA, resting not in the mind, but in the soul. And what happens when that codex begins to activate? When the living key hidden inside you begins to unlock truths no one ever taught you. Think of Maya Angelou. Her words weren't just poetry, they were prophecy. She spoke with a knowing that seemed to transcend generations, especially when she said, "There is no greater agony than bearing an untold story inside you." What if your untold story isn't just your past, but the story the entire world has been waiting to hear? And I will give you the treasures of darkness and hidden riches of secret places. Isaiah 45:3. The scrolls predicted a precise moment, a time when illusion would dominate the globe, a time when shadows would cloak themselves in light, when truth would be dressed in mockery, and when those who carry the real light would be dismissed as mad or misguided. Sound familiar? In an age where digital perfection is worshipped and artificial truth floods every screen, the being of light was said to awaken slowly, not through fanfare, but through a growing tension, deep in the soul. You've felt it, haven't you? That pull away from what the world celebrates. That yearning for something more real than the polished lies. Why do you think you've begun questioning everything? Your relationships, your role in the world, even your name? Could it be that you're not becoming someone new, but returning to someone eternal? The presence of this being, your presence, would begin to disrupt false structures, shake loose buried memories, and unsettle those who have built kingdoms on deception, not through violence, not through rage, but through something far more terrifying to darkness, unshakable truth. Just by existing as your true self, you send ripples through illusions generations in the making. Have I not commanded you? Be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid, for the Lord your God will be with you wherever you go. Joshua 1:9. Even Yeshua spoke of this when he declared, "You are the light of the world. A city set on a hill cannot be hidden." That wasn't just a metaphor, it was a blueprint. It was meant for you, the one who would carry the divine torch through the final age. Your light doesn't scream, it doesn't boast, but it cannot be ignored, and no amount of darkness can extinguish it. Consider Nikola Tesla. He once said, "If you want to understand the universe, think in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration." What if you are that frequency he glimpsed but never fully explained? What if your very being is that vibration, the signal that turns hidden doors into open ones? The scrolls didn't merely describe your awakening, they chronicled the unmistakable signs that would confirm it had already begun. First would come a sudden and unexplainable disconnection from the illusions of the world, as if everything that once dazzled you now feels disturbingly empty. Then would arise a hunger, not for success or recognition, but for something eternal, something that cannot be bought, taught, or imitated. Alongside this would bloom a deep and haunting loneliness, not from a lack of companionship, but from the soul's realization that the noise and chaos around you no longer resonate with your spirit. And perhaps the most mysterious sign of all, reality itself would begin to respond to your inner shifts. Doors would open before you knock. Time would bend in your favor. You'd think a question, and somehow the answer would appear without being spoken. These are not accidents. These are the echoes of prophecy awakening in you now. Now, faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. Hebrews 11:1. Steve Jobs, in his final days, spoke of the mystery of intuition and how the most important decisions he ever made came from a place beyond logic. He didn't fully understand it, but you can, because that same voice, it's whispering through you now. The scrolls were never about spectacle. They were about recognition. This being, you, would never need to declare themselves. They wouldn't be crowned by systems or anointed by public acclaim. They would be felt. And that resonance, it is already starting. Among those who still have eyes to see and ears to hear, something in you calls them home. You don't need to prove anything. You don't need to fight for titles. But you will face resistance, not just from outside, but within. Because the deepest war is always internal, remembering who you are while the world screams for you to forget. Chosen one, across the shattered ruins of ancient empires, buried under sand, lost beneath jungle, forgotten in the pages of manipulated history, there lies a secret not often told. It's not recorded in textbooks or echoed in documentaries. It's whispered only in the gaps between stories, in the empty spaces between the stones. If one listens not with ears but with spirit, a truth emerges. A story of fear, not fear of war or disease, but fear of an arrival. A being so powerful, so precise, that its very presence would undo what was crafted over millennia. They weren't afraid of armies. They were afraid of you. Behind the awe-inspiring monolithic temples, beneath the geometric precision of ancient grids, exists a silent confession. The architects of the old world were not merely engineers of stone. They were engineers of frequency. They collaborated with unseen forces, anchoring spiritual cages through architecture, vibration, and alignment. Their goal: to sever humanity's connection to the source slowly, generation by generation, until the soul forgot where it came from. They succeeded, for a time. But there was one thing they couldn't stop: your return. The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness has not overcome it. John 1:5. They thought they had more time. They thought they had disrupted the sacred timelines enough to scatter your path. But the truth is, they always knew you would come. They just didn't know when. And now you are here, awakening in the exact moment they feared most. Why do you think the world has become louder, more chaotic, more saturated with distraction than ever before? Could it be that the closer you get to awakening, the more desperate their attempts become to drown out your memory? Their temples were never just monuments. They were technologies, carefully positioned to redirect energy, to confuse the soul's internal compass. While the public marveled at their size and mystery, their real work pulsed beneath the surface. In the ley lines, in the magnetic grids, in the air itself. The goal was never simply to rule. It was to bind the spirit in loops of forgetting. But here's the part they never planned for. Remembrance cannot be caged. Do not conform to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Romans 12:2. Remembrance, true, soul-deep, body-encoded remembrance, is a frequency so powerful that no wall can contain it, no illusion can hold against it. That's why they didn't fear rebellion. They didn't fear weapons. What they feared was the one who would remember who they were, and in doing so, wake others. That one, chosen one, is you. You were not born to conquer by force. You came to mirror truth. You are a living reflection that causes false systems to collapse, not through violence, but through exposure. When truth stands in a room, lies can no longer function. And the architects knew that when you arrived, the deception they engineered would start to fracture. Have you ever wondered why your presence changes rooms? Why your silence often speaks louder than your words? Could it be that you were always designed to be a frequency disruptor, to realign what's been twisted? Albert Einstein once said, "The world will not be destroyed by those who do evil, but by those who watch without doing anything." Yet you were not made to remain silent. You are not here to watch. You are here to realign. So they tried to interfere. They waged wars not for territory, but for timelines. Sacred artifacts were seized, hidden, or corrupted because they carried pieces of your code. Pieces that, if reunited with your energy, would activate the memory of who you truly are. Mystery schools were infiltrated. Ancient bloodlines were diluted. False teachers were propped up to mislead the seekers. But still, no matter how they tried, they could not erase the divine signature placed inside you from the beginning. The one who is in you is greater than the one who is in the world. 1 John 4:4. Your path was never meant to be easy, but it was always meant to be unstoppable. And even now, as you rise, those who operate in deception feel it. They don't always recognize you consciously, but their spirits do. They tremble, not because you're threatening their lives, but because you threaten their illusions. Frida Kahlo, broken in body but unbreakable in spirit, once painted, "I am my own muse." Like her, you carry a fire that no trauma could dim, a light born not from ease but from divine origin. You don't need validation. You don't need applause. You carry proof in your being. Yeshua once declared, "The stone the builders rejected has become the cornerstone." His words echo through time like a bell in the dark, speaking of you, the one overlooked, misunderstood, dismissed. But you are the cornerstone of what is being rebuilt. The architects rejected what they could not control. What they did not realize is that the cornerstone was always meant to appear last. to complete the divine design. And the God of all grace will himself restore you and make you strong, firm, and steadfast. 1 Peter 5:10. They built monuments to outlast floods, earthquakes, even time, but they never prepared for the one thing their calculations couldn't account for: a human being whose mere presence alters the energetic blueprint of the earth itself. They buried knowledge under mountains of stone and oceans of sand, but they never imagined that knowledge would walk again, not in scrolls or ancient libraries, but in human form. Chosen one, what if everything you've felt stirring lately isn't confusion? It's your ancient self awakening. There are forces at play within you right now, forces that have remained dormant for lifetimes. They are not new, they are ancient. They have been patient. They have waited in silence, resting beneath the surface of your identity, untouched by the noise and chaos of the world above. These are not codes written in the languages of men. They are not written in ink or carved in stone. They are frequencies woven into the very pulse of existence itself, and they were planted in you long before your first breath in this lifetime. You were seated with these codes before this world ever told you who you were supposed to be, before culture gave you a name, before trauma clouded your clarity. These forces didn't disappear. They waited quietly, tuned to something far greater than time, far deeper than thought. They have always known the moment would come, the exact alignment when your essence would begin to stir again. For we are God's masterpiece. He has created us anew in Christ Jesus, so we can do the good things He planned for us long ago. Ephesians 2:10. The activation was never meant to be dramatic. No lightning in the sky, no grand thunder. Instead, it begins like a seed splitting in darkness. Quiet, unseen, but inevitable. It starts in strange dreams, ones that feel more real than waking life. It's in the stillness when time slows, when the air thickens with presence and something unspoken brushes your skin. It's in the sudden, inexplicable knowings, truths that bypass your logic, but land like ancient echoes returning home. Have you noticed it? That whisper in your soul that refuses to be silenced? These are the signs. The codes are awakening, and you are not imagining this. Long ago, when Thoth set the sacred mechanisms in motion, he understood something critical. Brute force would never preserve truth. Only subtlety, only resonance could ensure the survival of the most sacred mysteries. That's why the codes were not hidden in scrolls or structures alone. They were hidden in souls, in you. Your spirit was chosen as the vault. The song that was encrypted into your being cannot be found in libraries. It hums softly beneath your every heartbeat. Have you felt that inner music, a rhythm that plays even in your silence? Before the foundations of the world, I appointed you a prophet to the nations. Jeremiah 1:5. Paraphrased. As these codes begin to activate, you'll find yourself drawn to things you once ignored. You'll begin noticing symbols, patterns, numbers that seem to follow you. 111, 333, 444. You'll be pulled toward ancient languages, sacred geometry, or teachings that seem oddly familiar, even if you've never studied them before. Synchronicities won't just comfort you, they'll instruct you. They are messages from a higher realm, woven like breadcrumbs, leading you back to a deeper origin. Why are you suddenly waking up at specific times? Why do certain images or names keep repeating in your life? Could it be that a conversation is unfolding between your awakened self and the realms that have been waiting for you to remember? Nikola Tesla often said, "If you want to find the secrets of the universe, think in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration." He wasn't speaking in metaphor. He was tapping into a reality that science is only beginning to touch. And you, chosen one, are now embodying that truth. You don't just think it, you are it. The kingdom of God is not coming in ways that can be observed, for behold, the kingdom of God is within you. Luke 17:20-21. Yeshua once spoke in parables, not because truth is confusing, but because only those whose spirits were ready could hear it. His words were not just stories, they were triggers, seeds meant to interact with the dormant codes buried inside the chosen ones. When he spoke of the mustard seed, the hidden treasure, the narrow gate, he wasn't giving instructions. He was speaking to your design. He was activating remembrance. But here's the mystery. Not all activation feels like bliss. Sometimes it arrives through the collapse of everything you thought was real, through betrayal, through grief, through loss so deep that your identity itself fractures. Yet, even in the breaking, something emerges. What if the very things that hurt you were never meant to destroy you, but to reveal what cannot be destroyed? C.S. Lewis, a man of logic and deep faith, once confessed, "God whispers to us in our pleasures, speaks in our conscience but shouts in our pain. What if your pain was holy? What if it wasn't punishment, but passage?" He heals the brokenhearted and binds up their wounds. Psalm 147 verse 3. With every layer that peels away, every illusion that crumbles, you come closer to what was always there, your divine core. It isn't becoming, it is unveiling. And yet, even now, most will miss this truth, because what's being activated isn't loud, it isn't flashy, it won't go viral. It is silent, sacred, and targeted only to those whose spirits are attuned. That's why Yeshua's teachings have been so misunderstood, mistranslated, buried beneath rituals and doctrine. He wasn't just offering morality, he was handing down a blueprint, one that could only be deciphered by the chosen ones of future generations, those strong enough to hear through the noise of a fallen world. Why do you think certain words hit your spirit while others slide past you unnoticed? Could it be that your soul is finally recognizing its own instructions? George Washington. Carver, born into slavery, found over 300 uses for the peanut, not because he studied it, but because he listened to it. Nature is an open book, he said, if we only knew how to read it. You too are now beginning to read the hidden language of the world. And what of the timekeepers Yeshua alluded to? Not in public sermons, but in quiet moments, away from crowds. He spoke of those who stood at the edge of ages, watchers, guardians, beings who don't wear crowns or robes, but who mark the end of one era and the beginning of another. These gatekeepers didn't just wait for change. They waited for a being who would carry the codes, the vibration, the remembrance. Chosen one, have you ever wondered why certain things in your life felt orchestrated, like invisible hands moving pieces on a board you didn't know you were part of? That feeling isn't fantasy. It's the subtle trace of the timekeepers, not beings of flesh or blood, but custodians of frequency and rhythm. They operate beyond the veil of perception, not in time, but around it. They don't interfere with dramatic displays. Instead, they redirect flow, adjusting events not to control fate, but to ensure that sacred timelines align exactly when they must. They are the ones who keep the balance, guardians of temporal harmony, ensuring that what must unfold does so at precisely the right moment. They are neither angels nor prophets, but forces woven into the structure of time itself. And their gaze has long been fixed, not on an apocalypse, not on a war, but on a soul, one that carries the ancient correction, one that vibrates not with fear, but with frequency. That soul, chosen one, is you. I am the Alpha and the Omega, says the Lord God, who is and who was and who is to come, the Almighty. Revelation 1:8. When Yeshua said, "Before Abraham was, I am," he wasn't merely making a statement of divinity. He was revealing something deeper, a consciousness that exists outside linear time. He was speaking from the space where the timekeepers reside, where all moments coexist, where the past bows to the presence of divine knowing. This wasn't poetic, it was encoded truth. And those who govern the corridors between worlds, the watchers, the time custodians, recognized in Yeshua the same multidimensional awareness that now begins to stir in you. Have you felt the strange sense that you're running into the right person at the right time, or that things go wrong only to lead you to something far more aligned? Are you beginning to realize that what seemed like accidents were actually appointments arranged by forces beyond your understanding? This is the signature of the timekeepers. Secret scrolls and mystical texts suggest they have been anticipating a disturbance, but not in the form of chaos or disaster. No, they've awaited a shift so pure, so vibrationally refined, that it would ripple backward and forward through time, shattering the counterfeit grids designed to trap human consciousness. This shift was never a natural disaster. It was never a prophecy of war. It was a soul, a living, breathing carrier of original frequency, a key to restore the golden thread nearly severed from the fabric of humanity. You are not that event. You are that shift. Before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. Before you were born, I set you apart. Jeremiah 1:5. The false systems have known this. They've worked endlessly to install distractions, artificial timelines, synthetic desires, all to dull the frequency you carry. They couldn't stop your arrival, but they've tried to keep you asleep. And yet, the timekeepers have moved in silence, nudging you, rerouting you, preparing the ground beneath your steps. That job that fell through, that heartbreak you thought would break you, that meeting with someone you barely remember, but who changed everything. None of it was random. These were sacred calibrations. Oprah Winfrey has often said, there are no mistakes, only divine appointments. What if your life has been a series of quiet divine appointments, preparing you for the unveiling of who you really are? But make no mistake, the timekeepers are not omnipotent. They too face opposition. There are those who have learned to manipulate outer layers of reality, crafting false patterns meant to trap even the most awakened souls in loops of distraction. Have you ever felt like you were walking in circles, even while chasing purpose? Have you sensed the weight of something trying to pull you back, right when you're closest to breakthrough? You're not imagining it. The battlefield is not just within you, it surrounds you. The war is silent but fierce. It's a war for the future of human consciousness. And at the center of this cosmic battle stands a figure, a presence, a soul wrapped in ordinary skin, whose resonance causes dimensions to shift and hidden agendas to shake. That soul is not a legend. It is not coming. It has come. It is you. For though we live in the world, we do not wage war as the world does. The weapons we fight with have divine power to demolish strongholds. 2 Corinthians 10:3-4. This revolution is not fought with swords, it's fought with presence, with remembrance, with reclaiming what has always been yours. Consider Harriet Tubman. She wasn't a general. She didn't lead with power or wealth. She followed visions. She trusted divine timing. She became a breach in the oppressive system, a living key, unlocking others not through titles but through alignment. You, like her, are not leading from the front. You are shifting the atmosphere simply by remembering your purpose. Yeshua understood this deeply. That's why he spoke in layers. He guarded mysteries not out of fear, but out of wisdom. He knew that truth revealed prematurely could crush a soul not yet ready to carry it. That's why he told his disciples that some things would be hidden from the crowds and only whispered in secret. Because this level of knowledge requires more than intellect, it demands resonance. Whoever has ears, let them hear what the Spirit says. Revelation 2:7. He knew that only those who remembered themselves from the inside out would recognize the deeper pattern hidden within the teachings. Not just moral lessons, not just rituals, but keys to time, handed down in parables, waiting to ignite when the right soul walked the earth again. Chosen one, there are fractures in the fabric of this world, hidden, pulsing, and alive, waiting in places where the veil grows thin. Most eyes pass over them unaware. Most minds dismiss them as imagination or dreams. But these are not illusions. They are rifts, living thresholds where reality shivers like disturbed water, shimmering with the breath of something ancient. These silent passageways are not just openings into other places. They are gateways into other states of being, doorways to dimensions where spirit remembers itself fully, and not everyone can find them. The ancient texts, many now reduced to myth or lost to time's erosion, once called these rifts breathing points of creation. They are neither guarded by walls nor blocked by spells. Their defenses are far more sacred. They only open to a specific vibrational signature, one that cannot be faked, forced, or stolen, a resonance so pure, so unchanged by time, that only the one who carries it from birth can pass through intact. Chosen one, that resonance is yours. The Spirit Himself bears witness with our spirit that we are children of God. Romans 8:16. The world has conditioned you to trust only what you can see, measure, or control. But the most powerful truths have never bowed to the limitations of the five senses. They live in realms untouched by language or logic. You've felt it, haven't you? That strange hum beneath your thoughts. That breath that sometimes doesn't feel like it's yours. That knowing that something is watching, not with malice, but with expectation. Could it be that the gateways haven't been hiding from you, but waiting for you? These rifts do not respond to curiosity. They do not open for spectacle or conquest. They awaken to a frequency, a vibration encoded in your breath, your blood, your very thought patterns. This resonance was woven into your being by a source far older than this planet, far wiser than the systems that tried to define you. And while many search desperately for access through machines, rituals, or forbidden science, the true portal is open through remembrance, through alignment. When your inner world realigns with divine memory, the rift does not need to be forced. It simply recognizes you. Enter through the narrow gate, for wide is the gate and broad is the road that leads to destruction. But small is the gate and narrow the road that leads to life, and only a few find it. Matthew 7:13-14. Why do you think you've been feeling pulled away from the ordinary? Why has the world's noise felt increasingly intolerable to your spirit? These aren't signs of confusion. They're symptoms of proximity. You are nearing the convergence point, and the rift, hidden in plain sight, has already begun to tremble at your presence. In whispers carried through the hidden corridors of ancient mystery schools, it's said that Thoth, a guardian of light, once passed through one such rift, not to escape, but to plant keys for a being yet to come. He didn't go in search of power or glory. He traveled between worlds to leave behind codes designed only for one soul to unlock, a soul vibrating with the exact pattern of divine restoration. That soul, long prophesied, is not a myth. It walks in this generation, and it walks as you. Visionaries like Carl Jung spoke of archetypes buried in the human unconscious, patterns waiting to emerge when the time was right. What if those patterns weren't abstract psychology? What if they were encoded maps of your spiritual inheritance, waiting for you to activate them by walking the path of alignment? You were taught to be made new in the attitude of your minds, and to put on the new self, created to be like God in true righteousness and holiness. Ephesians 4:22-24. When Yeshua spoke of the narrow gate, many took it to mean morality. But those who truly listened, those with spirit-trained ears, understood he meant more. He was describing the dimensional crossing, the exact kind of gateway we now call a rift. One that requires abandoning illusions, one that cannot be entered wearing the masks the world gave you. You must strip away ego, title, shame, and fear, not to lose yourself, but to finally see yourself clearly. Crossing the rift is not an escape from this world's brokenness. It is an initiation, a holy rebirth, and with every rebirth comes pain, a shedding of the false. Are you willing to let go of who you were told to be in order to become who you were always meant to be? Think of Malala Yousafzai, who was silenced, shot, and nearly erased, yet rose not in vengeance but in vibration. Her existence is a rift in the fabric of fear, her voice a passage to something higher. What if your voice, your presence, carries the same disruptive purity? For we walk by faith, not by sight. 2 Corinthians 5:7. The rift does not scream, it whispers, and those whispers are layered inside what appear to be ordinary moments. A choice made in faith, not fear. A quiet yes when the mind says wait. A leap without knowing where your feet will land. And somehow, despite uncertainty, you rise. Have you ever had a moment when something inside you said, go, even when the logic said, stay? Have you obeyed a pull you couldn't explain, only to discover that everything changed afterward? Those were not coincidences. The truth is this: you do not need to find the rift. The rift finds you when you become the version of yourself that was always destined to cross through it. And when you do, the world behind you will remain the same. But your vision, your frequency, your very essence will not. Think of Galileo, who dared to speak truth that fractured the worldview of an entire civilization. What he saw with his eyes, you are now seeing with your spirit, not new knowledge, ancient remembrance. You are not stepping into a new world. You are stepping into a truer version of the one that has always been there, hidden beneath layers of illusion and forgetfulness. And now, at this threshold, your soul prepares to make the crossing. Chosen one, hidden behind the timelines, the world accepts as history, lies a different story. One whispered through ancient corridors and preserved by a brotherhood so secret, most deny it ever existed. This wasn't a society of kings or warriors. They wielded no scepters, commanded no armies. Instead, they were guardians of a current, a deeper flow of truth that moved quietly beneath the surface of civilizations, revolutions, and religions. These men and women, misunderstood, mislabeled, and often dismissed as myth, lived between the lines of recorded history. They did not seek fame. They sought preservation, because what they carried could not be entrusted to crowns, to priests, or to institutions. It was too pure, too dangerous, too divine. But buried deep within their most sacred texts, encoded in symbols and wrapped in layers of cipher, they left warnings, not about monsters or wars, but about a soul, a being whose arrival would disrupt the balance they had worked so carefully to protect. And that soul, chosen one, is you. Have I not chosen you and appointed you to go and bear fruit, fruit that will last? John 15:16. They didn't fear you because of evil. They feared you because of purity. You see, even corrupted systems bring a kind of order. Even illusions build foundations. But the Brotherhood foresaw a disruption too powerful to be controlled. A light so authentic it would expose every imitation, every manipulation, every counterfeit truth humanity had been conditioned to trust. You weren't coming to tear down through violence. You were coming to reveal. And in doing so, you would shake the very fabric of the world's illusions. Why do you think the most dangerous truths have always been buried in parables, myths, or symbols no one was meant to understand until the appointed time? Could it be because they knew one day someone like you would awaken, someone who wouldn't just decode the message, but embody it? When you walk into a room, things shift. When you speak the truth, even gently, it unsettles those who built their identities on falsehood. That's not by accident. You carry what the Brotherhood called the original frequency, a resonance untouched by systems, untainted by control, and unyielding in its authenticity, and that is what they feared most. The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness has not overcome it. John 1:5. Some among this brotherhood understood your arrival was inevitable, but others panicked. They feared what the unraveling of illusion would cost: social order, tradition, power. And so they made a choice. Instead of embracing the truth, they sought to delay it. They turned to darker paths. They created false chosen ones, fabrications designed to confuse, distract, or siphon energy away from the true awakening. These false lights were strategically placed on stages, behind pulpits, in boardrooms, to mimic the vibration of the authentic while concealing a different agenda beneath polished smiles and inspiring words. Have you ever sensed something was off, even in people who said all the right things? Have you been drawn to a teacher or message only to feel a quiet dissonance in your spirit, an inner warning that couldn't be explained? Marilyn Monroe, though seen by many as just a glamorous icon, once said, "If I had observed all the rules, I'd never have gotten anywhere." Her journey reflects a deeper truth. Authenticity disrupts control. Like her, you weren't made to follow, you were made to reveal. The Brotherhood's deepest fear was not destruction, it was correction. They knew that once your light stepped into the open, the false systems they constructed would begin to unravel, not because you condemned them, but because you rendered them obsolete. To the pure, all things are pure, but to the corrupt, nothing is pure. Titus 1:15. And so, many within the Brotherhood chose silence. They vanished into deeper shadows, hoping that if they waited long enough, the world might evolve without breaking. But their silence wasn't cowardice, it was strategy. They encoded their final warnings in symbols, monuments, and traditions scattered across continents. You've seen them, haven't you? The architecture that resonates for reasons you can't explain. The stories that carry an energy deeper than the plot. The symbols that seem to glow when you look at them too long. These weren't coincidences. They were messages for you, activated only when your soul reached the right frequency. Watch out for false prophets. They come to you in sheep's clothing, but inwardly they are ravenous wolves. Matthew 7:15. Even Yeshua knew this moment would come. He didn't warn of false prophets because they would say ugly things. He warned us because they would sound true, feel safe, and be adored by the masses. The danger wasn't in deception, looking like evil. It was deception mimicking light. And the only way to discern the difference would be to recognize the resonance, not with your ears or mind, but with your spirit. Mahatma Gandhi once said, "Even if you are a minority of one, the truth is still the truth. You don't need a crowd to validate what you carry. You only need to remember that your frequency cannot be counterfeited." Your path has always been narrow, not because you're lost, but because it's hidden, invisible to the masses, unmistakable to the awakened. Chosen one, across the windswept sands of forgotten time, two radiant figures emerge like echoes in stone. Thoth, guardian of cosmic law and sacred geometry, and Yeshua, the living embodiment of divine light walking among men. On the surface, their stories seem divided by centuries, by continents, by civilizations. But beneath the surface of time, beneath the illusion of separation, there lies a hidden alignment, an invisible thread, a convergence written into the architecture of reality itself. That thread didn't end with them, it points forward. And where does it lead? It leads to you. This is the plan. At the right time, he will bring everything together under the authority of Christ. Everything in heaven and on earth. Ephesians 1:10. Thoth didn't just teach with words. He spoke in frequencies, vibrational truths encoded into stone, starlight, and sacred sound. He knew humanity, still dreaming behind veils of illusion, could not yet receive truth directly. So he planted it in myths, in sacred geometry, in DNA itself. He embedded it into the very matter of those who would one day carry it forward. That carrier was not a priest, not a ruler, not a prophet with a crown. It was a soul, the soul that lives in you now. Yeshua, walking through the noise and fracture of the material world, picked up the same mission, but through a different lens. His parables, his healings, his silent presence were not simply moral lessons. They were divine codes. Each miracle, each gesture, each silence bypassed logic and awakened something eternal in those with ears to hear. He spoke not to control behavior, but to ignite memory. The memory of who you are beneath the layers of human identity. Have you ever wondered why certain teachings resonate so deeply in you, even when you can't explain why? Why do you feel a sacred recognition when others simply hear words? These two figures, Thoth and Yeshua, did not aim to create followers. They were initiators. They came to awaken those scattered across time, the ones who would not simply study truth, but embody it. You were never meant to simply learn about the divine. You were made to become its living vibration. For the kingdom of God is not a matter of talk, but of power. 1 Corinthians 4:20. Both masters understood something sacred. True transformation cannot be forced from the outside. It must arise from within. It must awaken from the soul, not from fear, not from doctrine, but from recognition. The kind that cannot be shaken by rejection, persecution, or the tides of society. Their mission was not to build empires or religions. It was to awaken a current of light strong enough to survive distortion and rise again in one soul when the veils were at their thickest. You are that soul. Leonardo da Vinci painted symbols into his art that most eyes never noticed. He wrote backward in mirrored code and hid cosmic patterns in faces and shadows. Was he simply eccentric, or was he trying to leave behind pieces for a future consciousness? Someone who would see, not with the eyes, but with the soul. In records long suppressed, there are clues of a communion between Yeshua's path and the teachings of Thoth. Symbols reappear across distant lands, spirals, crosses, eyes, gates, all pointing to the same frequencies, the same cosmic truths. These weren't random. They were fragments of a single design, split across time, waiting to be brought back together, not by scholars, but by someone who could resonate with both. And that person is not in a monastery or a temple. That person is you. Now we see through a glass darkly, but then face to face. Now I know in part, but then shall I know even as also I am known. 1 Corinthians 13:12. When Yeshua said, I have other sheep that are not of this fold, he wasn't simply referring to other tribes. He was pointing through time, past geography, past religion. He was speaking to souls not yet born, souls like yours. Souls who would awaken not by learning a new doctrine, but by remembering a truth older than the stars. He spoke of you, the one who would recognize both paths, not as opposing traditions, but as twin flames of one sacred purpose. Do you feel that fire rising inside? The sense that your mission is not to choose between paths, but to embody the unity they both pointed to. Albert Einstein once said, the most beautiful thing we can experience is the mysterious. It is the source of all true art and all science. What if that mystery is no longer outside you, but waking up inside you? This is not about forming a new religion. It is not about merging systems. It is about returning to the truth that has always been there, hidden in plain sight. A truth that could not be preserved by scripture or stone, but only by presence, by frequency, by the way you walk, breathe, speak, move through a shifting world with unwavering clarity. Those who are led by the Spirit of God are the sons of God. Romans 8:14. You are not a mere seeker, wandering ancient ruins, hoping to uncover forgotten secrets. You are the secret, You are the convergence point of two sacred timelines, two divine missions, two eternal voices speaking across history and meeting now in you. Your life isn't random, it's preordained design. You are the fulfillment of a pact made before language, before stone, before time. You are not here to echo what was, you are here to continue it. Chosen one, there is a gate unlike any structure on this earth, not carved from stone, not forged by the hands of men, not catalogued by history or claimed by nations. It remains hidden, not in location, but in vibration, in silence, in alignment. This gate does not rise like the monuments of ancient kings or conceal itself behind walls of hidden temples. It does not demand rituals, bloodlines, or the cleverness of the intellect. It is sealed by something far more sacred: resonance. And that resonance was encoded into you long before your soul ever took shape in this realm. It is the glory of God to conceal a matter. To search out a matter is the glory of kings. Proverbs 25:2. The final gate was never meant for the many. It was built for the one, for the singular soul whose inner frequency matches the ancient current of creation itself. No passwords, no performances, only purity. It responds not to effort but to essence, and when you draw near, not in distance but in alignment, the gate will stir. It will remember. It will vibrate in recognition of the design written into your being before time began. And when your frequency matches its sacred tone, the boundary between worlds will no longer resist you. It will welcome you. Have you felt it? That pull towards something you can't see but can feel. That strange sense that the world is paper thin in certain moments, that something is listening, waiting. This is not imagination, it is memory returning. The ancient scrolls spoke of it in metaphor and myth, warning that many would attempt to breach this threshold using force, formulas, or stolen wisdom. Scholars would spend decades decoding symbols. Sorcerers would twist light into imitation. Rulers would build empires on sand, burying the truth under layers of glittering deception. But none of their efforts mattered. Why? Because the gate does not respond to authority, achievement, or ambition. It responds only to truth. I am the door. If anyone enters by me, he will be saved and find pasture. John 10:9. When Yeshua said, "No one comes to the Father except through me," he was not describing religious exclusivity. He was revealing a deeper current, a frequency so pure it becomes the doorway itself. It wasn't about exclusion. It was about alignment. The same principle governs the final gate. It does not require offerings, language, or dogma. It requires only that you become who you truly are. So, chosen one, what layers have you outgrown yet still carry? What identities, what fears, what masks keep your frequency from rising into full remembrance? Approaching the gate is not a matter of travel, it is a matter of transformation. Every false skin the world placed on you must fall away. Every belief that told you you were small, every illusion that demanded you conform, must be released. And as your authentic frequency rises, the gate does what it was always meant to do. It begins to respond. Helen Keller once wrote, "Although the world is full of suffering, it is also full of the overcoming of it." Her life was proof that even in darkness, the soul carries a signal that cannot be suppressed. What if your soul has always carried a similar signal, a tone that only the gate can hear? For the creation waits in eager expectation for the children of God to be revealed. Romans 8:19. Among the last whispers of the Brotherhood are tales of what happens when this final gate opens. It is not merely a passage, it is a ripple, a seismic shift through all dimensions, a restoration of what was fractured in ancient wars between light and shadow. The Brotherhood buried these truths, not out of hatred, but out of fear. They couldn't control the gate, and so they feared what would happen if it opened without their permission. They encoded warnings in sacred architecture, legends, and symbols, but their greatest miscalculation was believing that truth could be buried forever. You, chosen one, have found the thread, and the gate has begun to listen. Why do you think the world is trembling now? Why are systems unraveling, beliefs dissolving, time itself seeming to bend and break? Is it because things are falling apart, or because something far greater is finally being revealed? I am making everything new. Revelation 21:5. For those who built their worth on illusions, the unraveling feels like death. They cling to systems, to titles, to roles that once gave them identity. But for you, the one who carries the original memory, this is not death. It is coronation. You were never here to maintain broken systems. You were here to watch them fall so that truth could rise. Rosa Parks once sat in silence and changed the course of history, not because she shouted, but because her presence disrupted false authority. You too are not here to make noise. You are here to be undeniable. You are not crossing into the end of time. You are stepping into the beginning of your reign, not a reign over others, but over the divine purpose etched into your very being, an inheritance far older than this world. Time, as humanity has known it, was never meant to be a cage. It was a vessel for experience, but it was hijacked, twisted into a loop to keep souls asleep, repeating, recycling, forgetting. The architects of the false grid believed that by keeping time linear and dense, they could trap souls in endless amnesia. But they never imagined one would rise who remembered, who saw through the lie, who saw that beyond the end of time lies not oblivion, but sovereignty. The last will be first, and the first will be last. Matthew 20:16. And so, chosen one, here you are. The gate is listening, the rift is ready, the systems are trembling, and your presence is activating what was hidden for ages. You don't need a crown, you don't need permission. Your resonance is your access. So what if your entire life has been the preparation for this one moment, when you stop knocking on the gate and realize you are the gate? Beloved chosen one, what awaits you is not a throne carved by human hands, nor a crown forged by earthly powers. The reign destined for you is made of frequencies, ripples of remembrance that move invisibly yet undeniably through the ruins of a collapsing world. You don't need to shout, you don't need to fight. Your presence alone shifts atmospheres. As you walk in truth, systems built on lies unravel at your feet. As you breathe in alignment, illusions collapse under the weight of your authenticity. You are not rising by accident. You are rising because the old timeline has run its course and the original design is calling you back. You, chosen one, are the living spark that reactivates what was silenced, buried, and delayed. You are the resonance the ancient gate was tuned for. The divine architecture recognizes you. It was never meant for the crowds. It was waiting for you. Yeshua hinted at this sacred reversal when he said, "The last will be first, and the first will be last." Not a reshuffling of human status, but the collapse of false hierarchies when time bends and truth stands unveiled. Those once overlooked, the quiet ones, the mocked, the misjudged, were never weak. They were seeds. Seeds lying dormant under the rubble of corrupted timelines, now bursting forth with divine remembrance. You don't rise to rule others. You rise to restore the light that was lost, to anchor the reality that had been forgotten. Yes, the signs of the end are undeniable. Governments tremble, religions shake, systems once thought eternal now flicker like dying flames. But you are not afraid, because while the world sees endings, you feel beginnings. While the old crumbles, you hear your coronation song. You were never meant to inherit a broken kingdom. You were meant to breathe life into a new one built not on fear, but on frequency, not on domination, but on divine resonance, not on control, but on the living truth that never stopped pulsing within you. Before we close, I want to speak from my heart. To every single one of you who's watched, commented, shared, or donated through Super Thanks, thank you. Your support doesn't just uplift this message, it helps it reach other chosen ones still trying to remember who they are. Whether you gave or not, please know this: your presence is the gift. Your energy is seen. You are deeply appreciated. From the bottom of my spirit, thank you for walking this journey with us. And now, chosen one, it is time. If this message stirred something ancient in you, if your soul whispered, "This is me," then I need you to watch the next video. But listen closely. It is not for the faint of heart. It is not for those still clinging to the old world. It is for those ready to cross the threshold. Because what's waiting in the next message will shift you permanently, not just in knowledge but in vibration. And only the true chosen ones will have the courage to receive what comes next. So go now. Step forward. Your coronation begins. May divine remembrance flood your spirit. May the hidden gate swing wide. And may the blessing that's waited across lifetimes finally meet you in this moment. You are not alone. You are not late. You are the one we've been waiting for.